this groundhog was highly requested for me to draw, so let's go ahead and get right into the process of it. So I want to kind of get into the details of each step here and why I am choosing the pencils I'm using and the kind of layers that I am using as well, like the why I'm building up the layers that I am. So these eyes, I used a little bit of a dark blue to incorporate a little touch of color in there. This is an 8x8 size paper, so drawing these eyes are definitely smaller than usual. But of course, with groundhog, the eyes are smaller than the body. I mean, honestly, all animals, everybody's eyes are smaller than the body, but the body is like significantly bigger than the eyes in a groundhog. But I left room for a little bit of the highlight and then used a light blue color pencil to just kind of create a little waxy coating over that, which is called burnishing. And then with the dark sepia color pencil, I am creating the outline around the eye. And it's definitely an odd shape, but for this moment, you do want the pencils to be sharp as best as possible because it is such a small, detailed area. But you can see that I'm really focusing on the details in these eyes as best as possible. It's really important that you get the eyes to look as accurate as possible. If the rest of the portrait doesn't look as accurate, it's not nearly as bad as when the eyes don't look good enough. So over time, I do make some adjustments in the eyes as I'm drawing the rest of the body, but you'll see the adjustments that I make, and that's okay if you go back and make adjustments yourself. That's just a part of the process. But both eyes don't look the same, so that's why I'm trying my best to make them look at least proportionally similar. But I definitely had a challenge trying to get them to look similar-ish in a way, at least proportionally. But yeah, using that white blue or the light blue color to create a sense of highlight is very, very important. If you don't have that light blue, you can use a white color pencil instead. But when you're drawing small like this, you do want your pencil to be sharp. I do talk about you can use a dull pencil for more of the first couple layers, but when you're adding details like the eyes, you do want it to be sharper. That way you can incorporate the details a lot easier. So for the first couple of layers, you do want it to be light pressure with light colors. So I'm using a raw umber 10% in the Caran d'Ache Luminance series, and then I'm using a sepia 10% for the rest of the area, and it kind of creates a little bit of like a purple tone. But you can see a lot of that in the reference image too, which the reference image is going to be linked in the description below, so check that out. But I do like to draw usually left to right. But right now I want to kind of focus on the main features like the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So I'm using a little bit more of a dusty purple to work on the first layer of the nose and the mouth, and you can kind of see that purple tone in the portrait too. So you kind of have to train your eyes to see colors that you just don't normally see on average, and just trust the process and know that it's going to look good if you incorporate some, colors that you normally wouldn't think about. So I'm using the dark sepia in the Faber-Castell Polychromos series. It's one of my favorite color pencils. I use it for all my portraits. And I'm using this as an alternative to black. I like to use that instead of the black color pencil a lot of the time because the black can be very flat looking and it kind of takes away from other colors. So that's why I'm using that there. Then you want to mix a little bit of some brown So, but before I finish it, sometimes I'm like, a little ADD and I move from one step to the next before finishing it. So that's what I ended up doing. I was playing around with the different colors to see what works really well for the base layers. So I was using a I don't know what you would call that, some sort of like skin tone, fleshy tone color, but almost have like a golden hue to it when you apply it. And then around the mouth, I'm using that raw umber 10% still. And you want to try to stay consistent with the colors that you choose. So if you pick out a set of colors to begin with, make sure that you save those, leave those out, so that every time you come back and draw, you remember which ones they are, and you don't have to go back into your sets to pick them out. Now, trying to get the shape of every feature is going to be, it's always going to be a challenge, but if you just kind of look at the shape of each section and try to remember that shape, adjust your eyes going back and forth between the drawing and the picture, it does help a lot to get the proportions right. If you are looking at the shape and thinking about that shape more so than if you were just trying to draw all the details within that shape, if that makes any sense. But relax and try to look at each shape abstractly, and you are better off to get the proportions accurate by doing so. So I'm drawing with short strokes. I know this fur is a little bit longer, but there are some areas where I'm just kind of drawing a little bit shorter strokes, but that's just for the first couple of layers. You do want to draw in the same direction as the fur that you see, so just do your best to draw in that direction and use light pressure. I'm still using light pressure here for quite a while because I still want to be able to blend everything together as best as possible. And if you use heavy pressure, you're not going to be able to blend all those layers together, and you won't see all those layers together either. So just follow along with me for a little bit, and I'll get back into it once we've got a couple of layers down. Alright, so now I'm going to start adding the beginning parts of the whiskers. So usually those dots there in the muzzle area. So I'm going to draw just a rough estimate of those. It doesn't have to be perfect, and I'm not drawing super heavy pressure either, but it is very important to start drawing some of those details. That way you have a better understanding proportionally where everything is located, even if you go back and add more detail, like adding more pressure to them. Okay, so I have probably about like 8 to 10 different colors already, and then I'm using a cool gray, like a dark gray color in here. The more contrast you have between the warm tones and the cool tones, the more realistic your portrait is going to look. So do your best to do that. You can use dark gray, light gray, or just light blue, something like that, in some of these features, and it'll just really make your portrait pop even more. Now I'm using mineral spirit oil with a paintbrush to blend everything together. It's really beneficial to making your pencils last longer, as well as your hands. So my hands cramp up a lot. I have like some nerve damage from over time, just life in general, and I still love drawing, so I have found a cheat code by using mineral spirit oil to use as a blending solvent. And not only does it save on my colored pencils, it also saves on my hand, so it doesn't hurt nearly as much by applying a lot of pressure to build up those layers over time. So that's how I'm able to complete portraits a little bit longer and a little bit shorter of a time. Sorry, I was getting distracted. But yeah, it's really nice because it blends everything together, as you just saw. Also creates heavier saturated area, and you can still draw on top of the blending solvent, as you can see here. It also makes those marks that you apply afterwards a lot more saturated and a lot more detailed. So it's very beneficial for me. I also have noticed that it kind of helps preserve the color a little bit longer than if I weren't to use it at all. So I really like that I had invested in the mineral spirit oil, and I had bought it like 6 years ago, and I still have that same container. So if it's, I don't know how much it costs now, but if it is a little bit pricey, it's still worth investing in. Just get that, a paintbrush. You can also use, what do you call those, Q-tips, things like that to use to blend. But I like using the paintbrush just because I'm already used to using paintbrushes for other things. So you can just, use an old paintbrush or whatever with it. But you want to use it after you've applied, like once you're ready for the details, once you've applied quite a few layers, that's when you apply it. So now that I've got quite a few layers down, I'm also working around the muzzle area. It's a different color, so it makes it pop out a little bit more, but I'm using it's a dark sepia, or it's just sepia 10%, which has that nice purple gray tone to it. I really like using those purple tones for some reason, but I think it made it look really nice as an undertone. And then of course I add some like burnt orange in there, because in the reference image you can see there's a lot of warm tones happening. There's a lot of orange and some red tones, so I actually use the burnt sienna in the Faber-Castell Polychromos series. It's another one of my favorite ones to use, but It's a nice mix between brown and red, and it's very natural looking, so that's why I like to use that one a lot. All right, so just follow along for a little bit and I will be right back. As you can see, I'm using a pale blue. It's in the Caran d'Ache Luminance series. It's actually called, hold on, let me find out the name of it. Okay, it's called Silver Gray in the Caran d'Ache Luminance series. And I hope you remember that because I will forget. I don't know why, but that one, I always forget the name of that one. I can remember other ones, but I just call it pale blue because that's what it looks like to me. It's like an icy blue. But I'm using that to create some highlighted features and some of those little short hairs. I think it really makes a nice little contrast between all the other colors, and it tones down some of that bright red and orange tones that are in there. Okay, so now back to watching me draw. So I will be back in a couple of minutes again. But just keep watching and you'll see how the process works of building up those layers. Pay attention to, am I using light pressure or heavy pressure? And what kind of colors I am choosing to use. Now, do remember that I have a lot of pencils in my left hand, so I'm swapping back and forth pretty quickly. That is one thing that I tend to do a lot, is work faster than most, at least most of my students in person. So I have to force myself to slow down a little bit, so that my students can keep up. So, but you can play or pause at your leisure. Just if you're actually following along yourself and drawing it, yeah, just play or pause at your leisure. But if you're just watching it and trying to understand how to use color pencils, just watch the process and see, okay, how is she building up these layers, and like what colors is she choosing and why. And so a lot of the time it's the colors that I just feel like need to be added at the time. So you're going to end up in the same situation where it's very loose and instinctive instead of structured. So keep that in mind for yourself too, and let your creative juices flow as much as possible. Don't be too strict on yourself. But yeah, I'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Just keep watching, and I will show you a little bit more once we've gotten to the body. Alright, so for this first layer, I am using brown ochre 10%. It's that peachy flesh tone color that I talk about. I can never remember the name of this one, but it's brown ochre 10%. So it has a little bit of an orange tone to it. That's probably why it's called brown ochre. And then that's when I bring in some of those orange tones in there. And I'm drawing in that weird, like the direction of the fur is just very wonky. So let's work with the extreme measures here and really just have at it and have fun and see how it works. So to blend in everything, I'm using the oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of that one pencil. The raw umber 10%. And then using a little bit of some darker raw umbers in the Caran d'Ache Luminance series. And then of course bring in some burnt sienna. Now the Caran d'Ache Luminance has a burnt sienna as well, but I like the Faber-Castell one a lot better. I think it looks more natural, more brown than red. And of course we gotta include some brown in there, so we're gonna be using a Van Dyke brown in the Faber-Castell series. I only buy buy two different brands of color pencils. So I have the Faber-Castell Polychromos and then the Caran d'Ache Luminance series. Those two are my two favorite. I'm sticking with them for right now. You can buy Derwent, which is a good brand. I also have Prismacolor, but I don't use it for unless I'm like teaching in person. I just don't think the quality is quite there as much as these, you know. When you get top dollar, you just don't want to go back. So that's why I don't use them. All right, so we've gotten pretty low here so far, and I was using the dark sepia in the Faber-Castell Polychromos series to create that wedge between the two arms, that little shading down there, and it gets really dark. In the reference image you can see what I'm talking about. But at this point, I'm incorporating a little bit of some green tones in here. I think the green really helps to create a sense of realism, because in all natural environments, there's always a little bit of green being reflected into the fur. So that's how I'm able to create a more natural look rather than just an animated, semi-realistic drawing. So you got to think about the colors that you're playing with and step outside of your box. Try out different colors. Like I've done purples, pinks, greens, blues. I've used a lot of different colors, and the portraits turn out really, really interesting and very realistic because I am applying a variety of colors. Even if it's like a brown color, pick out 2 or 3 different brown colors and work with that. Or if it's, you know, it's a white dog, use different types of grays in there. It doesn't have to be just all warm grays. It could be cool grays. You know, mix it up, add a variety. I always tell people, my students specifically, you want to have no less than 5 color pencils per portrait. And that's actually very lenient. I would say no less than 10 normally, but just to play it safe, no less than 5, especially if you're drawing small. You might not be able to fit, you know, over 10, but 5 is pretty reasonable for drawing small portraits. So I'm still staying consistent in the colors, but you do want to pay attention to where are those colors showing up. So the orange is not everywhere. You don't want to just apply orange haphazardly. You want to apply it in the areas that you can see it the most, and then stop. Like don't keep using it. And then blend those colors with some cool tones too. That way it tones it down a little bit and it's not too saturated. Think blending between the cool tones and warm tones, like I say all the time, really makes or breaks your portrait. And I think it's a really good challenge for you to play around with those 2 different tones together. So just follow along. In a couple of minutes we'll get to the feet, but just watch the process of how I build up the layers for this front area. It's very fluffy, very crazy directional fur, and I don't know, I think it's a lot of fun. And if you're following along and drawing your own, I definitely suggest you have fun too. You know, this is not a competition. You don't have to be so stressed about getting it to look accurate. Just have fun and play around with the different colors, different layers, and different textures that's showing up in here. All right, so the feet, I just didn't enjoy drawing as much because it really just doesn't look complete until it's done. But I used black to create a heavy contrast first and then started to add color. You do want to keep your pencil nice and sharp for this area because it's very small. You need to have that detail. So make sure that your pencil is sharp and then move in with a little bit of color in there, but still leave room for those little claws there. We'll add some color to it in just a little bit here. But you can see it's a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated just because they are coming from the ground. So it's going to be a little bit darker since the light's not hitting them nearly as much. Okay, so the saturation is pretty heavy in the red tones, but watch what I do here. So I'm going to use different colors to tone it down. blend it in a little bit better. So if you're worried that you might have made a mistake and made it look too saturated, that's okay, because you can fix it with by toning it down with other colors, or you can just very carefully erase it with, you can use an electric eraser, which is I have an ebook where it's all the materials that I use. You can download it on my website. I'll also have it linked below, but it has all the materials that I use, and in that is the little electric eraser that I use. So now you can see it's very, very heavily saturated, dark, dark, dark. Like, there's the black showing up. That's what I wanted. I have always struggled with contrast, and I want to make sure that I'm adding enough contrast in my portrait so that it doesn't look like it's on the paler side or just not as finished looking. So when you add more contrast using the black after a couple of layers, then it'll look a lot better and look a little bit more complete than if you had something that's just unsaturated, quote unquote. Alright, so it's time to continue the rest of the body here. So there's a pretty big difference between the right side and the left side. It's a lot lighter on the left side, so you can tell the lighting is coming from the left side. So I'm using the pale blue to add the sense of contrast, and that has more highlights in it than it does on the right hand side. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a brown color. This is a little bit on the warmer side of a brown color pencil in the Faber-Castell series. So I'm using Faber-Castell for this because this brand stays sharper for longer, and I can add more details with it than the Caran d'Ache Luminance. So that's why I like to use this for more details. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm still leaving room for the highlights in there. But then I also use other colors to do the same thing as I build up. And I'm working on, you can see that I'm drawing a little bit more denser in the little lump that you see that's like showing you the difference between the arm and the back of the body. So just pay attention to some of those little details. You do want to somehow make that obvious by making a little bit darker, a little bit more dense of a line, an abstract line in a way. The direction of the fur is also different, so you can see it's kind of curving down where the arm stops, and then it curves a little bit more out on where it starts the back, a little more up and out. So just be thinking about those details as you are drawing different animal furs. As usual, I like using the dark sepia and the Faber-Castell Polychromos series. It is a very nice, easy go-to color pencil. So if you're going to buy more of the individual pencils at your local art store or online, definitely invest in the sepia colors, whether they're lighter or darker, doesn't matter. They're just really, really nice to use. So these are shorter strokes compared to the first part of the body, like in the front. So if you haven't noticed that already, you definitely want to make sure that they're shorter strokes this time. So work with short, and then in the rest of the body, just make sure that those are a little bit more elongated. But just watch as I build up more layers here and see how I am achieving still creating a sense of highlight in there by leaving some room for the lighter features to come through. So at this point, yeah, it's going to be darker looking because you added the mineral spirit oil, but don't worry because you can still use other color pencils afterwards. You can use lighter color pencils to work with creating little short highlighted features. So you'll see what I mean here in just a minute. And if you're following along, do the same thing. And now add a little bit of some orange and red tones in there because you do want it to look consistent with the rest of the portrait. But once that's done, then you can start to add a little bit more detail. You can still see that it is on the lighter side compared to the right hand side where it's a little bit darker. At this point, you can start to use the black to create little specks, like little details that honestly make this look more contrasty, has a good sense of depth in there because you're adding the black. I know black can be very flattening, but I think it also helps once you've had enough layers built up. Once you apply the black, it doesn't look nearly as flat because you already have those colors down to begin with. It actually adds more depth to it. So color theory is just like a crazy thing. So I've not really been taught about color theory. I've never really understood it. When I did go to school for art back in like grade school, I was always intimidated by it, but I definitely have learned a lot through experience, and you will find that it'll be the same way for you. If you start to play around with different colors, you'll start to see what works and what doesn't work, and see, oh, like if I build up my layers with light pressure and use a variety of different colors and work with cool tones and warm tones together, you'll get a nice little concoction from all that. So really it's just a matter of having fun and playing around with it, just like really falling in love with the process of figuring out how color pencils work, like the method of them, and figuring out what works best for you and what doesn't. So this right here is a slice tool. You can get it on Amazon or straight from the company. It's not really used for color pencils, but a lot of color pencil artists do use it. It creates little stray hairs, so it's like little highlight stray hairs. It's really good for things like this. If you have fur that's very fine and detailed, don't use this. But if you have hair that has some little strands, little highlighted stray hairs here and there, go ahead and use it. It's a lot of fun to play with, but it may or may not work depending on how many layers you built up properly. You have to build up light layers, like many light layers, and then use the mineral spirit oil on either a watercolor hot press paper or like a Bristol vellum paper, something that can actually hold all those layers for the slice tool to work. I have definitely come across many times that the slice tool didn't work because my layers were not built up properly. So if that's what's happening to you, don't necessarily get discouraged. Just the next time you do a portrait, remember those things. Build up those layers very carefully and very lightly so that you can have enough layers to be able to etch away once you've gotten enough, or once you've completed all those layers all together. I really hope that this video was helpful. If you are interested in learning to draw, or you like more helpful tips and tricks, you can subscribe to my email list, which is going to be linked below. I provide helpful tips and tricks weekly on there. I also have a blog that I provide helpful tips. So I've got all sorts of different things. You can also take any of my individual classes. Those are going to be linked below as well. So you can just play your class at your leisure. They are all pre-recorded. And then if you want to take a step further, you can try out my 8-week program where you can learn to draw pet portraits. It's different styled fur, different colored fur, and then different animal features all in one, so that by the end you have the confidence to be able to build your own pet portrait. And then you can ask me questions along the way. I also critique your work towards the end of the 8-week program, so check that out. That'll be linked below as well as on my website. If you have any questions or concerns or suggestions, please comment down below. I'm more than happy to help, and I love getting to hear feedback. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.